Hello and welcome to Half a Chance Podcast. My name is Jason, and this is going to be another opinion review of a game that is just freaking cool. What is Armored Core 6? If you couldn't tell by that intro, it is a mech shooter. It's third person, and it's very heavily centered around customization. Whether it's customizing the mech parts, or your weapon loadouts, or the way your mech color and design is, all of it is very much incorporated into gameplay and progression throughout the game. Armored Core 6 tells a science fiction story far in the future of events that happen on a faraway planet. The only thing that could make it more alien to us is adding actual aliens. Or did they add aliens? We'll have to see. What's the synopsis of this? Let's see. I wish I could answer that. It's really about a faraway planet named Rubicon, which has expensive resources called coral, which were thought to have been burned away in the fires of Ibis. But fires of Ibis, they give the landscape of Armored Core 6 a dystopian and charred look, which is really, I don't know, it's dark, but it looks really cool. The Planetary Closure Administration, however, has sealed off Rubicon to prevent another Fires of Ibis event to take place. I think technically those fires spread across the galaxy, not just on Rubicon, but I could be wrong about that. However, coral is so needed by the mega corporations to make money that they decide to break that closure by descending upon Rubicon to try and mine it for profit. The Rubicon Liberation Front, they have a religious connection to the coral and are the original inhabitants of Rubicon, the ones that did not die in the fires of Ibis. They fight the corporations and the PCA, and all factions use mechanical robots and drones. Most also use manned mechanical robots, and they're called armored cores. They have augmented humans that are inside those robots, and somewhere I read a description that there are so many drones and non-piloted aircraft around that once this revolution took place of what these augmented humans could do inside these machines, there's only a couple piloted armored core machines out there, and they way outperform every other drone or unmanned mechanical item. The mechs are large and very powerful and nimble, unlike most of the weaponry involved in the fight. The player is an unnamed freelancer who has a mercenary handler assigning jobs for him to complete. The handler, named Walter, seems to use the player to fight for all sides in order to make the most money. So what can we compare Armored Core 6 to in other games that we've maybe played? Obviously, this is number 6. So there's plenty of other armored cores out there that you can compare this to. There's probably a few minor differences with this one compared to the other armored cores, but very comparable to those. I assume I have not played any other armored core except for this one. You can compare it to Mech Warrior, although Mech Warrior, if you've ever done that, you're piloting a mech, but those are also very slow. They're very heavy, gigantic monster machinery. They're basically the same thing as the armored cores, only the armored cores are extremely fast versus the mech warrior ones. They just are slow and almost like very large tanks on the battlefield. You could also compare this game to Titanfall 1 or 2. Titanfall is a little bit more, it's a first-person shooter more than it is a third-person. And Titanfall has you getting in and out of mechs versus this one, you're always in your mech. Titanfall, I don't remember customization being the biggest thing. I think there are classes of mechs, but in this one, you have your mech and you customize everything on it. Who is this game for? I would say it's for mech enthusiasts, very obviously. If you love gigantic robots, this is for you. If you're a Gundam fan, if you like Mecha Godzilla maybe, I don't even know. But anyone that likes mechs will love this game thoroughly. Anyone that loves third-person action, they would love this as well. Science fiction enthusiasts, it's definitely enough science fiction with lasers and plasma and stuff like that that it would satisfy that itch for science fiction. And for anyone that likes military piloting, like dogfighting in airplanes, things like that, this is also a really good game for you if you enjoy those types of games. I think I would put myself in all of those categories. I love all of those categories, and this one is a really good game. What's the gameplay loop? It is mission-based, so you really get a mission handed to you, sometimes multiple missions, and you get to choose which one. You hear a mission briefing, you do the mission, and then you get briefed on what your actions caused or what the outcome was after you left the battlefield and things like that. And then you get paid because you're a mercenary. And then you just do that again and again. That's the gameplay loop. There's a story built in there, and the story progresses the more missions you do. And the story really changes depending on what missions you select. So, let's go on to what this game does well. First of all, it is probably the coolest video game I have played. It is just plain cool. The only thing that comes to mind when you see this game, when you play this game is, oh man, that is so cool. There's so many moments that blow you away, whether it's the visuals or whether it's something happening that you had no clue was going to happen. Everything about this game is just plain cool. The boss battles, you will see a little video just showing all the boss battles. I think it's just a little bit of a teaser to make you see what type of bosses are in the game. They don't show all of them. Sometimes there are mid-progression bosses. There are multiple chapters in the game, and the multiple chapters, at the end of each chapter, there is a boss. But there are more than just those end chapter bosses, and this kind of shows you some of them, and they're really fun to fight. Another thing on the boss battles is that beating them is very satisfying, but they are very tough. The gameplay and action is very smooth. I think on my Xbox Series X, I had it in the performance mode and it was going at 60 FPS the entire time. There may be a couple areas in the game where it slowed down just for a small moment, maybe like 1 or 2 seconds, just because of so much lighting going on, or I'm not quite sure. But it goes really fast. It runs really smoothly on the Xbox Series X, where I play most of my games. And if you have a fast PC, it would probably run really smoothly on that. And it is just a very fast game. It's very Twitch type gameplay. If you really love shooters where you have to duck and pop out and shoot, and this one is very much a go forward and backwards and fly up in the air, and you dodge the enemy missiles or lasers or things like that. So it's very fast paced. The weaponry is very fun to use. There's a lot of weapons. I have not used them all, but there's tons of them and tons of categories of weapons. There are bazookas, which shoot rockets, and then there's grenade launchers, which shoot grenades but are basically like bazookas, but they're different, and there's multiples of each kind. There's laser rifles, there's laser shotguns, there's regular rifles, there's regular shotguns, there's plasma rifles, there's plasma shotguns, there are plasma missiles, there are no laser missiles, but there's definitely giant laser rifles. And then there's regular missiles or splitting missiles. Bottom line, missiles are my favorite part of this game. Having the missiles split between targets and targeting multiple targets at once is probably one of the most satisfying things of this game. If you have a rocket pack on your right shoulder that shoots 10 rockets and you have 5 enemies in front of you, you can just hold down your right bumper for your right shoulder until it locks on to all of them, and it'll shoot 2 missiles each at all 5, which is really cool. Customization is very detailed. Like I said, you can change color shades, you can change the color of your weapons, you can change the emblems that are on your mech. I did not delve into that. I don't really customize that much with aesthetics unless I get something like a skin given to me. I don't really go in and paint my own stuff very much. I just made my mech really dark and black and put on maybe 3 stickers that I felt like I earned in the game. But you can do a lot. If you go and Google HaC customization, you'll probably see so many different mechs and what they look like, and it's pretty cool what you can do with it. Changing loadouts and weapons and play styles is necessary for progression. One of the biggest things that you can change is your feet. So your mech has either 2 feet bipedal, or they can be quadriceps, where they have 4 feet, which those ones have extra boosters on them so that you can hover in the air versus just jumping up a little bit and falling back down. You can stay in the air for an extended amount of time. And then there are the tracked vehicles, so like a big tank type. There's multiple, there's small tracks, there's very heavy tracks. Obviously the heavy ones give you the most armor, but are slow, and the small tracks give you a little bit more armor than legs, but you are still pretty fast. You can get some legs that can help you jump really, really high without using boosters, or you can get heavy legs that basically don't even walk. They should just be tank treads, but they are legs, and you have to slide around on them using boosters on the ground without even walking, which is hilarious, but that's an option. You can buy weapons and mech parts and sell them for the same price that you bought them for in order to try something else out without feeling stuck with what you have. It's an excellent part of the game. There's so much staked on, okay, if you have this enemy is running around on the ground constantly and rolling over you like they are just making you a flat pancake. So that means you need to be in the air, but you don't have these quadriceps that allow you to fly around and hover so that you can shoot from up above. Well, you can sell a couple of mech parts, maybe sell some legs that you're not using, sell some chest pieces that you're not using, sell some heads that you're not using or arms, and then you can buy yourself those quadriceps that were out of reach because you didn't have enough cash. And then you can take care of that boss. So they really allow you to sell everything back at the same price that you bought it and progress through the game by trying out something new. Then the next boss, maybe the next boss is a flying boss, and so you need to be on the ground as a tank because there's no way around that thing outmaneuvering you. It's too fast, so you might as well bulk up with armor. And if you don't have the money for that, you can sell those quadriceps and buy yourself the tank treads instead and use those. And as soon as you die, you figure out, oh man, I need to be a little more mobile. You can sell those tank treads and instead buy some heavier legs that are a lot more mobile than tank treads. All of that is free player choice, and they remove a barrier by letting you sell back everything that you bought, which is really great. You also earn things. You can find chests with other gear in it, and those things, yes, you can sell as well, but everything that you buy, you can sell, and everything that you obtain, you can sell in order to get the right loadout. What does it not do well? This game does a lot of things right. I think one of the things it doesn't do well is it needs to tell you, somehow prompt you to try something new, because you can literally bash your head against the wall a million times with the wrong loadout until you figure out that the game wants you to change the loadout in order to succeed. You could be thinking, man, I got this boss down to, a sliver of health every single time. You do that 20 times. I've definitely fought a boss 20 times. And as soon as you get that right loadout, suddenly that boss melts in front of you and you are barely half health. And the game doesn't tell you, hey, maybe you should try something else. And I think for people that are not used to this, used to specifically From Software games where you have to have the right way of fighting a boss, if you just think, I love this loadout and I'm going to keep this loadout and I'm going to just make things happen with this loadout, you will not complete this game. No way. Because this game forces you to try something new. And I think that's great, but I think they should also prompt you at least once or twice saying, hey, how about you try out something else? And I don't think I saw that in this game. Another thing it doesn't do quite well is that you're selecting one path over another path. That means sometimes 2 or more missions are presented to you, and after completing one of them, you find out that the other one is not an option anymore. At other times, they are all available to you to play before you're moving on through the story. So it doesn't tell you very well, this is a crossroads. You're choosing this battle, so you won't be choosing the other battle. It happened to me all the way until the end. I didn't quite realize, maybe the very last decision I was able to make, I figured out, okay, if I choose this, then I am literally choosing to side with this faction versus that faction. Which means, it doesn't do that well, but this game has multiple endings and multiple outcomes depending on your choices, which is nice and promotes multiple playthroughs. So, let me go to great moments. In this game, the ending chapter fights are phenomenal. So there's 4 chapters in total for this game. The ending of chapter 1 is very difficult. The ending of chapter 2 is very difficult. Ending of chapter 3 is very difficult. Ending of chapter 4 is probably the most difficult, but it is so fun to see the culmination of everything that has been going on in the story end in these chapters before moving on to something new. And the endings for each chapter are so good. And once again, all I can say is it's cool. It's just really cool to see all of this science fiction and robots and everything happening in front of you. It's really cool. The epic scale of everything you see is really cool. Once again, all I'm saying is cool because it is such a cool game. But when you get your mech and you're starting to run around, you really don't notice, especially if you're in an interior, you don't notice how big this machine is because you're flying around, you're jumping, it feels like you're, Banjo-Kazooie just running around like you weigh like a normal human might weigh. But these things, when you stop and you look around you, you start seeing buildings next to you that are no bigger than your foot, or you see trees that maybe go up to not even your knee of your mech. The scale is epic. And then you see gigantic fortresses, gigantic buildings all around you. And you know this is science fiction because people are in this game really this small. And then there's these hulking mechanical objects that are way bigger than your mech, like maybe 200 times bigger. Just gigantic things. And it's really cool to see that type of world where everything is so big, but it's still grounded in, okay, yeah, trees are this big, cars are this big, houses are this big. You can just hop on top of a skyscraper really quick in order to get a jump on another mech, but you're hopping on top of a skyscraper that someone lived in at one point on Rubicon. Also, there are times you expect one thing to happen and then something else entirely happens. There's a lot of surprise events like that. Sometimes you start a mission and the mission is go take out this base. And you get there and the base is already taken out. And oh boy, that just turns into a boss fight because the person that just took out that base is there for you because they knew that you were going to show up. Things like that. There's a lot of surprises in it and they really do wow you when that happens. Do I want a sequel? Yeah, why not? If it's just as cool as Armored Core 6, I would definitely play another one. However, there's no need to play another one. Why? Because this game, once you finish it, which I just finished it last night, it right away puts you into a new game plus. You start the entire campaign over with all of your gear, with all of your money, and with all of your ranks to where you were at the end of the game, and you get to restart. And there's new enemies, and there's new alternatives to missions, and there's new equipment that you can find. It's pretty nice, and I think I read that From Software wanted people to play it at least 3 times. In fact, apparently the real ending only happens after the 3rd playthrough. And that sounds like, wow, you spent a lot of time on Armored Core 6 to get this done, and now you are going to turn around and do this again? The incentive is that you have all of your gear. I played 28 hours to complete Armored Core 6, and I have all of the gear that I accumulated from those 28 hours. And now the first couple missions only take me about 2 minutes to complete because I have so much power that I'm overpowering all of these normal enemies. The bosses, I have not gotten to the first chapter boss, but I assume that now my gear is kind of outmatching that first boss and I can get through this fairly quickly. But you keep all of your gear and you can progress way faster. All the enemies are not touching you anymore, all the normal enemies. So, a sequel would be awesome, but it's going to be a couple of years before a sequel comes out. And until then, I definitely could play another 1 or 2 playthroughs of Armored Core 6 because I'm just getting more and more powerful and see other endings and other alternatives to missions. I hope that you had a good time watching the gameplay. I hope you got a good idea of what this game is, what it's like, and I definitely can tell you it's so much fun. I would recommend it to anybody. It's so much fun. My young son has played a little bit of it, just the training stuff, and he enjoys it too because there's endless fun to be had with shooting rockets and machine guns at other mechs. It's really a great game. So I hope that you enjoyed this opinion review of Armored Core 6, and I will see you with another opinion review some other time.
Target destroyed.
They're coming, Raven. Whenever the moment is right.